What's up, everybody, man? Just Philan Speaks, doing something a little different here. Here in this video, I'm going to give my opinion on a show that I've been watching for the last 3-4 years. Most of you guys, who follow the channel know me from doing sports or Game of Thrones. I have never expressed interest in the Star Wars genre, and it's probably because, when I look online, I see a number of people who I always felt were more qualified than myself to do such. I've considered myself more of a casual when it comes to Star Wars because growing up, I've watched every movie. I'm an older gentleman, I guess. So I remember watching Star Wars, Return of the Jedi, The Empire Strikes Back. Star Wars, I can't say I went to the theater to see it, but I was young enough to remember seeing, or old enough to remember seeing The Return of the Jedi in the movies in 1983. I put it that way, I watched all of the prequels. I've watched the sequels that most people don't like, the character Rey, etc. Solo, Rogue One, all of that, all of the Disney stuff. So to that degree, I'm a fan. I've never followed the comic book, the old Star Wars comic book, and I haven't read like the novels or anything like that. So I didn't feel, I would be the best person to do it. But I just wanted to give my thoughts on this particular show, The Mandalorian, because in my opinion, The Mandalorian is the best series, man, I'd put out on this particular genre. And to me, it's better than a lot of the movies. I know it's probably sacrilegious to say it's better than the original movie series, and I'm not going to say that, but I mean, it's up there for me. You know what I mean? But I want to talk about this particular character, man, and what's happening in season 3 in particular with Bo Katan Kryze, Djarin, who is known as the Mandalorian. The characters Grogu, all of them are there as well. Now, with Djarin and Bo Katan Kryze, there are a large number of people in the fan base, the Star Wars fan base, who are unhappy with what's going on. Many of these decisions, or the way that they've written the script this season, has left a lot of people unhappy. And I'm going to say I disagree, and here's why. When you look at leading, or the concept of leading the Mandalorian people, leading them, not, who's the coolest Mandalorian, not who's the best bounty hunter, or any of those types of things. But when we talk about the Mandalorians, for those who followed, Rebels, and those who followed the animated series, the Clone Wars, where the Mandalorian story comes in, where you had the Pre-Vizslas, and you had Maul coming in and taking over after defeating Pre-Vizsla, and then you had Sabine there, and her going at it with Bo Katan over the philosophical differences on who should lead the Mandalorian. I'm not going to go into all of that, but when you look at it, you will see that Bo Katan Kryze is a character that was created by Dave Filoni, and created by Dave Filoni, who plays an integral part in what's happening with the Mandalorian. You see, this character was created prior to Djarin. All right, so in her, we know what happened there on the Rebels, where she is the leader at a certain point from the monarchy that's there, and loses it for various reasons that I'm not going to get into. But the point I'm trying to make is that whenever we've seen Bo Katan has always been integrally connected or intertwined with the storyline that's connected to ruling Mandalore and the Mandalorians. This has always been her storyline. This has always been her theme. When we first meet Djarin in the beginning of The Mandalorian, Djarin has always been a bounty hunter. The way his bounty hunting is what led to him finding Grogu in the first place, And then his mission became to protect Grogu and transfer Grogu to the Jedi because he felt that was the best thing to do with the foundling. This has kind of been his theme. Leading the Mandalorians has never been a part of Djarin's theme. So what I don't understand is the section of the fan base who believe that it should be for Djarin, to lead the Mandalorians. There's people who believe it should be, Boba Fett. There's people who believe it should be Djarin. And me, for the life of me, I don't understand why people think that. I don't understand what people are seeing in the character that Djarin has shown that leads you to believe that he's qualified to be a leader, that he would actually be a good leader, that he would be someone who's knowledgeable of the affairs, dealing with like when you're talking about being a leader, there are a number of factors, a number of things that go into that I don't see him being prepared for. I just don't see that as part of his storyline. Whereas with Bo Katan Kryze, number one, she is from the royal family, the Kryze clan, who were the rulers of Mandalore. Her father was the king of the place. Her sister was, a princess or whatever her official title was in the Rebels. And Bo Katan actually herself was next in line after her sister, passes. So that's always been her storyline. Why do people feel as though it's kind of like taking over the Mandalorian? I don't quite get. Now I understand if you love Djarin and you just want to see his adventures and his exploits, and seeing Bo Katan storyline be put front and center so far. Me, I'm not one of those people that's going to jump to conclusions when it comes to the whole storyline. I don't know where Favreau or Filoni is going with the whole thing. I'm not going to judge it until I see the complete and total product. Many people are jumping out there saying first episode was too, I don't know, not enough. Second episode was Bo Katan is beating up the those little creatures on Mandalore, whereas and she's easily using the lightsaber, the dark saber, whereas Djarin is hardly able to handle it, and this is annoying people. And I like that. I don't understand either. Like, Bo Katan has had the dark saber before; she's used it, right? People are complaining about, Bo Katan, comes along and on season episode 4, and the child is kidnapped, and everybody else is an idiot because they don't have fuel in their jetpacks. Which Bo Katan goes against the ship, and she's able to fly, and she has all the coordinates to figure out how to do this, how to do that. And the only thing I'm not understanding is, why does any of this surprise people? All right, let's look at the characters here. All right, with the exception of maybe Paz Vizsla, who could be, I don't know his relation to Pre Vizsla, but if he has a relationship to Pre Vizsla, and I haven't looked into his storyline, but besides him, the only one there who has, that we know of, has military experience at the highest level of training, has the highest level of combat training, highest level of technology training, is Bo Katan. Like, if you look at it, Bo Katan should be the one who knows best how to set up, military formations, how to do all of these things that are part of organized, professional militaries, and being part of the royal family. Like, if you really study history of people, typically when what you would call a messianic figure comes about, and this can be in anything. When you talk about the Judeo history, when they talk about a messianic figure, when you talk about in the Islamic history, you talk about messianic figure. When you talk about even in European history or whatever, typically messianic figures have certain blood relations to figures in the past and things like that. So when we talk about who would lead the Mandalore, honestly, some of the first candidates, honestly, would be either Vizsla, Paz Vizsla, or Bo Katan. When Bo Katan comes along, you're talking about royalty there. Okay, so with the armorer's actions don't surprise me, because the armorer knows, okay, that royalty is important when it comes to leadership, and from the standpoint of whether or not people will follow you, because leadership at the end of the day is about being a person that has the qualities that cause people to follow that person, and one of those things is the blood right, or the blood relation to people of the past who led. Typically, that's one of the qualifications. So the Vizsla, maybe he could, and you see him challenging Djarin last season for the Darksaber. And why? Because he's a Vizsla. So he feels as though, okay, I have some right to lead Mandalore. And if you look at Djarin being a foundling and not being anyone connected to any high-born royal family, he's not going to even have the mindset to want to lead or think that he should lead. And no one else is going to think he should lead. He's the typical soldier, the hero soldier that's going to support the leader. He's going to be like the moral crux of the story. He's going to be those things. Whereas someone like a Paz Vizsla, someone like a Bo Katan, their storyline will more so be along the lines of a person that is seeking leadership, or someone that the people are going to choose to lead. When we first see Bo Katan on The Mandalorian, she has followers with her who obey her command. Right? So I just don't understand. I don't think this is a situation where Bo Katan is taking over the show. I think it's just merely the paths of two people being intertwined. And it could be true that there's a bigger picture here, bigger story here that includes Grogu, the new Yoda, Din Djarin, who was like his protector, who brought him into the circle of the Mandalorians, and Bo Katan, whose story started with the animated series. That's what I think they're going for. Now, this doesn't mean that Din Djarin can't somehow be a leader at some point by default, but it's ridiculous to think that Din Djarin this early on would be the person that the other Mandalorians would follow. They just wouldn't. I mean, unless, he has something like, okay, he's riding the Mythosaur, or he has the Darksaber and he, tries to claim it. Maybe that'll work. But when you talk about the history of people and the mentality of followers who follow people, they do look for indications. Like, are you from a noble family? Are you trained in the area of leading? Are you trained in the area of setting up bureaucratic structures and all of these types of things? Now, me being a monarchist, I'm all for, the election of Bo Katan leading and restoring her family line, and actually if she chooses to take a consort like a Din Djarin and they start a line, like, I'm all for that, because I'm a monarchist in my mentality. That's just what I am. However, I don't think the show is going to go there, because things tend to not go that route, that simple, obvious, sensible route. So it could be a situation where Bo Katan does her part, or does her part to help bring together the Mandalorians, or unify the Mandalorians to the best of her ability, or dying in the process, whereas someone like a Din Djarin later emerges and becomes a leader. That's what it could be. But to think that Din Djarin should be either trying to be the leader, or he should be pushed to be the leader, or they would write it for him to be the leader, would be actually very bad writing. It would be, because that would be the most illogical thing to do. Now, for all of you other people, because there are a section of you out there who believe Bo Katan shouldn't be doing all of this simply because she's a woman. Now, you won't put it that way, but the way you'll put it is, well, Disney is out here with this woman's liberation or this woman leadership agenda. So what they're going to do is they're going to take and hijack Djarin and Grogu's story in order to push Bo Katan, you know. And you know what? Tough titty, man. You know why? Because a number of reasons. Number one, I'm still going to go back to Bo Katan was invented before Djarin. So they probably had this whole idea in mind to bring Bo Katan in. Probably. And what they were going to do is use the Djarin as part of the storyline. Djarin serves the purpose of helping Bo Katan work out what's going on with her. She was in a faith crisis as a result of losing everything and finding out maybe her way doesn't work. Djarin is that I wouldn't say radical. It's radical from Bo Katan's perspective, but he's that faith-based individual that Bo Katan needed to come across in order to see the value of having faith, in order to see the value of the old ways. Because as we saw when Djarin goes to step into the waters of Lake Minnetonka, you know, anyone who watched Purple Rain, you understand what I'm talking about with that. She was inspired by that. You could just see the look on her face as he was walking in the waters. It was very inspiring to her. And then she goes and sees the Mythosour. Okay. Now, I don't know what's going to happen from here. My prediction is her, with probably the help of maybe a Grogu or something like that, tames the Mythosaur. I think she does get some degree of success with regards to unifying the Mandalorians. I kind of think it's not going to end like, with her on the throne and all the Mandalorians around her, because the writers of today just don't tend to write like that. But I think there will be some degree of that. And, later, she might die, and die. But I believe she will die in an honorable way. Right? Listen, man, just tell me what you guys think of that. I'm thinking about regularly doing this, speaking on the Mandalorian and maybe even other parts of Star Wars. I don't know. I never considered it, man. I was just inspired to put this out there, man. Please like it and share it if you like what I'm saying. It's a different perspective than what is probably out there with a lot of the channels. You know what I mean? So, appreciate you all for listening, man. Thanks.